Police authorities in southwest China's Yunnan province have revealed that more than 8,000 drug traffickers have been arrested and over 9 tons of illegal drugs have been seized in the first 5 months.
Are you ready to face the truth that the million-dollar house next door, the world's busiest airport you just landed at, or even the familiar nail salon in Duluth could actually be the center of a drug empire poisoning the entire planet? On an ordinary afternoon in Georgia, a man loading water into an SUV was suddenly handcuffed as dozens of federal agents swarmed in just the first crack in the surface. What followed were 140 simultaneous raids, 12 tons of illegal substances, $410 million in laundered money, and the darkest secret of all the Sinaloa cartel and a Chinese underground banking network had turned Georgia into their global headquarters. This is no longer just a drug story, it's a silent invasion. Are you ready to see the truth? The precursors are pouring in from China. I made a deal with President Xi that he would impose the maximum penalty on anyone producing illicit drugs in China and selling them to the United States. 5:40 p.m. in Duluth, Georgia, an $85 million pipeline. One major cartel boss taken down. Synthetic drug labs, a massive Chinese money laundering network exposed. This was a full-scale criminal invasion that had burrowed deep into Georgia neighborhoods. Tonight, chilling global connections are emerging after a massive money laundering arrest. Authorities are linking Mexico's infamous Sinaloa cartel directly to a Chinese underground banking network. For years, the cartel's labs have quietly poisoned Georgia's suburbs. When agents finally struck back, they uncovered millions in cash and an empire hidden inside Atlanta's safest neighborhoods. Atlanta is no longer just a hub, it has become the cartel's global launchpad. And as terrifying as that sounds, the truth is far worse. 5:40 p.m. Duluth, Georgia. A quiet Georgia shopping plaza suddenly erupted in chaos as federal agents swarmed to arrest 48-year-old Ha Mingchen. Minutes earlier, he was calmly loading cases of water into a silver SUV like any ordinary shopper. Yet Homeland Security had been tracking Chen for 10 months over suspicious cash transactions, late-night runs up I-85, and secret meetings. ICE agents moved in fast guns, drawn faces, scanned, cuffs, snapped on, then hustled him into an unmarked van. Most people in the parking lot had no idea they'd just witnessed the takedown of a major cartel player. The video exploded online, sparking immigration rumors, but federal officials quickly clarified this had nothing to do with immigration. Ha Mingchen's arrest in Duluth became the first crack in an $85 million drug and dirty money pipeline linking the Mexican cartel Chinese precursor suppliers and brokers buried deep inside Georgia's Asian, Latino, and logistics communities. The 48-year-old wasn't just an ordinary worker, he was the living bridge between cartel bosses and Chinese money launderers, turning Atlanta into the synthetic drug distribution capital of the entire East Coast. What looked like a minor bust was the exact pressure point federal investigators had been waiting for to dismantle hidden suburban labs, secret cash routes, and a statewide criminal web far more dangerous than anyone imagined. The moment the video went viral, the operation shifted into Phase 2 because the couriers were no longer dropping loads at abandoned warehouses or dark nightclubs anymore. Ha Mingchen regularly visited upscale neighborhoods in Gwinnett Johns Creek and Alpharetta Top Schools, manicured lawns, quiet streets. From the outside, they were classic near-million-dollar brick homes with double garages and perfect landscaping. Inside, veteran DEA agents stood stunned living rooms turned into industrial stainless steel cook stations, bedrooms converted to chemical drying ovens, attics packed with ventilation pipes and silencers basements sealed in foil insulation. To neighbors, the constant hum was just the AC running at weird hours. That air conditioning noise was actually industrial drug cooking rigs running 24/7. Precursor chemicals slipped through Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta Airport, disguised in containers labeled as cleaners' dyes or industrial solvents, then vanished into wealthy suburbs. There, the cooks worked for months unnoticed. When DEA agents hit one Johns Creek house, they seized enough raw product to kill every person in Georgia 6 times over. Even hardened narcotics veterans admitted they had never seen suburban labs this sophisticated, silent, and lethally efficient. Officials called them death factories disguised as dream homes, but the labs were only the beginning. What investigators uncovered next was so massive it sprawled across the entire state and triggered the fiercest law enforcement sweep Georgia has ever seen. This is about to get worse. The suburban labs shocked everyone, but what they revealed behind the scenes was far darker, a distribution web stretching from Atlanta to Savannah, Augusta to the Tennessee line. Federal command had no choice. Strike now, or the entire East Coast would soon run on poison cooked in Georgia's own neighborhoods. At 3:14 a.m. on September 18th, the order went out. The order was given. A multi-agency blitz involving DEA, ICE, FBI, GBI, and ATF launched the largest synchronized law enforcement assault in Georgia history. In briefing rooms across Atlanta and Macon, digital maps lit up with nearly 140 red targets, each dot a lab stash, housebroker office, or cartel safe site. The goal hit them all before sunrise. The first explosions of movement erupted in Gwinnett County. Armored vehicles rolled into quiet cul-de-sacs where the loudest sound was usually a lawn sprinkler. Black-clad agents shattered the silence, breaching doors in perfect rhythm. Flashbangs detonated against brick walls, lighting the night with silent lightning. Inside Georgia's secret cookhouses, frantic chemists dumped chemicals and charged straight into DEA gunfire. By dawn, the operation exploded like a shockwave. In Macon, tactical teams pushed through a steel-fortified stash house, choking on flashbang smoke and chemical haze, subduing gunmen in the corridors. In Augusta, ICE blocked 4 fleeing trucks. Helicopters circled overhead spike strips. Shredded tires, duffel bags of cash burst across the interstate, and one rig tried to ram through only to be pit maneuvered into the median by an armored SUV. Then Savannah erupted. 28 suspects barricaded inside a Riverside warehouse opened fire the moment agents approached, turning the dock into a haze of gun smoke and floodlights. The 7-minute shootout, considered long by federal standards, ended only when HSI teams breached the rear and cut off every escape. By week's end, from September 18th to 24th, the numbers were staggering: 123 arrests, 12.4 tons of narcotics, seized 1.1 million counterfeit pills, 870 firearms recovered, and $31 million in cartel cash frozen. Even veteran commanders admitted they had never seen a single state network this deeply embedded, silent, and ferocious. Federal officials called the surge a historic turning point victory. But on the ground, agents knew the truth: this wasn't the end. It was the first time Georgia truly saw the enemy's real scale. While the state reeled from the week-long raids, investigators spotted something far bigger than stash houses or highway shootouts. The real engine wasn't hiding in the suburbs. It was running 24/7 in the heart of Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson, the world's busiest airport, handling millions of passengers and millions of tons of cargo every year. That very status as a global gateway had made it an irresistible transit hub for international organized crime. Late 2023 analysts uncovered a never-before-seen pattern, a silent but dramatic surge, 340% increase in industrial solvent shipments from Shenzhen, Hong Kong, Guangzhou, and Shanghai. On paper, they looked nothing like fentanyl precursors, perfectly harmless. Chemical analysis told the real story. These were the building blocks of synthetic death, and the cartel was moving them through ATL with surgical precision. Every single day, more than 3,000 pallets vanished into the airport's labyrinth of warehouses, docks, and holding areas. The cartel exploited tiny gaps, shift changes, understaffed inspection lanes, security blind spots to slip precursor chemicals through unnoticed. Once cleared, the shipments vanished onto Georgia's interstates in 18-wheelers heading to suburban cook sites south on I-75 toward Florida, or straight into Alabama and Tennessee, where smaller labs operated under cartel control. But chemicals were only half the story. ATL had also become the launchpad for premium-grade stimulants exported to Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Korea, and Singapore. So tell me, do you still believe that beautiful house next door, your favorite nail salon, or that quiet neighborhood is really as safe as it looks? A single pound of pure product bought for $700 in Atlanta sells for $230,000 in Sydney or Melbourne. That insane profit turned Atlanta into the East Coast's premium export port. Clubgoers were recruited as mules paid $150,000 per run to carry hidden packages to Tokyo or Osaka, many clueless about who they really worked for until agents stopped them at the gate. After the Georgia raids, investigators realized the terrifying truth: ATL wasn't just a transit point anymore. It had become the cartel's new global distribution headquarters. They ditched California entirely, shifting everything east to dodge the tight controls at LAX. The strategy was elegant and absolutely lethal. Dirty money vanished into the endless flood of passengers and cargo at the world's busiest airport. A Homeland Security official put it bluntly, ATL isn't being used by the cartel. It has become their infrastructure. The revelation rocked federal forces. If America's biggest gateway is compromised, Georgia isn't just being poisoned, it's being weaponized to poison the planet. Behind ATL's cargo doors lies an invisible financial web that keeps every drug route alive. ATL is the logistical heart. The underground cash flow beneath Georgia is the lifeblood, silent, unseen, and far deadlier than the drugs themselves. No cartel survives on smuggling alone, they survive on laundering. And in Georgia, they partnered with the most sophisticated criminal banking ecosystem on earth, the Chinese underground network. This wasn't the old-school suitcase cash routine anymore. This was international financial engineering designed to hide millions inside everyday Georgia businesses. It started in Norcross with a seemingly harmless trucking company advertising local deliveries and cross-state freight, but surveillance revealed something else entirely. The rigs rarely carried real cargo. Instead, they hauled sealed crates stuffed with bundled cartel cash collected from stash houses across Gwinnett, Roswell, and Brookhaven. When agents raided the warehouse, they found $14 million hidden inside cardboard boxes labeled printer ink. Not a single real ink cartridge was in sight. Next came the nail salons and spas scattered across Duluth, Chamblee, and Midtown Atlanta cash-heavy businesses that made perfect fronts. Financial audits showed some salons reporting revenue that had zero connection to actual customer traffic, while others made nightly deposits that matched cartel payout cycles to the dollar. The deeper agents dug, the wider the web grew. Undercover surveillance inside Chamblee karaoke corridors uncovered a cross-border token system. Patrons bought chips for entertainment, but the money never stayed in Georgia. Dirty money vanished through digital platforms, flowing into accounts in Shenzhen, Macau, Vancouver, then looping back to Mexico via underground exchanges, a perfect closed-loop launder that no single bank could ever see in full. The most chilling piece sat in Tucker, a ghost logistics company with no real owner, quietly handling 53 containers labeled cleaning supplies over 2 years. Precursors one way. Vacuum-sealed stacks of US dollars hidden inside drums the other. Homeland Security estimates $410 million washed clean. None of it possible without a constellation of phantom LLCs on paper created by brokers in Nevada, Delaware, and Hong Kong, invisible ghosts that made the entire machine run. Even more alarming, some of these shell companies bore approval signatures and notary seals tied to Georgia local officials whose names remain sealed until indictment. When prosecutors reviewed the evidence, they realized this wasn't a cartel merely passing through. This was financial colonization, a silent takeover of entire sectors of the state's economy. Yet no matter how massive the laundering operation, the real damage runs deeper. Poison money doesn't just corrupt businesses, it reshapes communities, hollows out neighborhoods, and drags teenagers into a world few ever escape. And that's where the final chapter begins. The price Georgia's people actually paid. While federal agencies celebrated record seizures and historic arrests, the families inside those neighborhoods felt something entirely different. Paper victories don't erase the fear that has soaked into the streets or the damage left behind when an invisible enemy grafted itself onto everyday life. For thousands across the state, the poison doesn't just move through labs, airports, and warehouses, it flows down their streets into their schools, their stores, and their children. In Duluth, Chamblee, and Norcross, once thriving small businesses now operate like fortified outposts. Doors stay locked even during business hours. Customers knock, wait, and hope the owner recognizes them before cracking the door. Not because of robbers, but because everyone fears the same thing: ICE DEA or cartel retaliation. The crackdown created suffocating tension where immigrants fear law enforcement, and law enforcement fears a community too terrified to speak. Parents in Gwinnett and Fulton counties say the danger is no longer distant. Teenagers, some only 14 or 15, are being lured into quick cash courier jobs with promises of fast money. Just drive this package, pick up that envelope, don't ask questions. Cartel-linked social media feeds overflow with towers of cash designer sneakers and rented Lambo's bait that drags teens straight in. Reality hits fast, high-speed chases, felony charges, coffins. A 15-year-old in Hall County took a borrowed Dodge Charger to 110 miles an hour, fleeing police. 2 middle schoolers got caught with fentanyl disguised as energy pills. Teachers now report overdose spikes, kids vanishing for weeks, and night terrors that never end. Entire blocks in Clarkston, East Atlanta, and South Cobb turned into ghost zones. Residents refuse to step outside after dusk because they don't know which neighbor is cooking meth next door. One wrong word or lingering glance can bring death. Overdose deaths in Georgia rocketed past 2,900 in a single year, many tied to counterfeit pills cooked in those same deadly suburban labs. Funeral homes in Macon and Augusta report an unprecedented surge in teen services. Counselors say grieving families are often too terrified to ask questions or speak publicly. Even as federal agencies promise ongoing operations, residents still see boarded-up shops, empty parking lots, faded help-wanted signs, and communities cracking under the strain. The poison doesn't just kill, it reshapes how people live, locked doors, ended routines, stolen innocence. For most Georgians, the question isn't whether law enforcement is making progress. It's whether their neighborhoods will ever feel normal again. Because the cartel didn't just build a drug empire here, it carved fear into the landscape. Rebuilding from that will take far longer than any week-long surge of raids. When the last warehouse is cleared, the final lab lights go dark, and the dust settles over Georgia's streets, one truth remains undeniable. This wasn't just a drug case, it was a warning. A reminder that the worst danger doesn't always cross distant borders or scream down violent streets. Sometimes it grows quietly inside the nicest houses, the busiest airports, the quietest suburbs, and the most trusted businesses. That is the real cost, the human toll no press conference can ever fully capture. Yet there is another truth: Georgia's people are stronger than the networks that tried to take root here. Communities can rebuild, neighborhoods can heal, trust can return, but only if the state refuses to fall silent again. This investigation proved one vital thing: when people speak up, when neighbors pay attention, when communities refuse to look away, the darkness loses its cover. Cartels thrive in secrecy. They collapse in sunlight, and that sunlight comes from awareness from those who know the signs, share the warnings, and stay vigilant. The biggest lesson from Georgia isn't the 12 tons of drugs or the $410 million laundered. It's a chilling truth. The most dangerous criminals don't arrive with guns blazing. They slip in through our silence and indifference. They hide in the nicest house on the block, the busiest shop on the corner, the things nobody thinks twice about. When neighbors don't ask when we see something odd and look away when everyone assumes it's probably fine, that's exactly when the darkness wins. One suspicious glance, one right question, one anonymous tip can shatter an entire empire. Safety isn't something the government alone can deliver. It starts with your own vigilance. Georgia thought it was just another quiet southern state. In the shadows, it nearly became the global drug capital for the Mexican cartel and Chinese underground banks. 12 tons of poison, hundreds of labs inside million-dollar homes, $410 million laundered right under our noses, and the real price, thousands of kids in body bags. The war isn't over. It's only just begun. Do you still think your neighborhood is safe? Drop a comment right now. Have you ever noticed anything strange around you? A weird car that keeps showing up? A house that's way too quiet? A shop that's always closed? Share it. Your light might be the one that finally forces the darkness back. Smash like, subscribe, hit the bell. We've got a lot more to expose. See you in the next one.